Jace walked through the dusty streets of Alzor 9, a lawless planet at the edge of the galaxy. The twin suns were setting, casting a red glow over the rusted buildings and broken signs. This place was filled with thieves, drunks, and people who had nowhere else to go. Jace wasn't a hero. He was just a human scavenger trying to survive. He had spent the day searching junkyards for old machine parts to fix and sell. His hands were dirty, and his shirt was torn, but he didn't care. All he wanted now was a drink and maybe some quiet. As he entered the dimly lit bar called the Star Pit, the thick smell of smoke and oil hit his nose. Creatures of all kinds filled the room: alien pirates, old cyborgs, and bounty hunters. Jace sat at the end of the bar and ordered a cheap drink. That's when he saw the drunk alien. He was tall, with blue skin and broken tusks. He swayed as he walked and dropped a half-empty bottle on the counter beside Jace. His eyes were bloodshot and his voice was rough. "You look like you need more than just a drink," the alien slurred. "I'm fine," Jace replied, not making eye contact. The alien chuckled. No, I have something better. 2 rare girls, alien beauties, yours, for 1 drink." Jace raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" The drunk alien pointed to a dark corner of the bar. 2 figures sat against the wall, heads down, arms chained. They were young, maybe late teens. Their skin had a soft glow, and their hair shimmered like silver threads. Their eyes were closed, their faces calm but tired. "Found them drifting near the mining belts," the alien said. "They were alone, no ship, no ID. I took them in, they're quiet, obedient, not much trouble." "You're selling people?" Jace asked, his voice low and tense. "Not people," the alien hissed. "They're not from any known race. Might be grown in a lab. I don't care. I'm broke and thirsty. 1 drink and they're yours." Jace looked at the girls again. Something inside him said walk away, but something deeper said don't leave them here. The other patrons laughed. No one seemed to care. To them, this was normal. Without saying a word, Jace pushed his drink toward the alien. "Deal." The alien grinned and staggered out of the bar. Jace walked slowly toward the girls. They didn't move. He knelt beside them, carefully unlocking, the chains using a small tool from his belt. As he touched the wrist of the first girl, her eyes opened. They were bright silver and full of fear. "Don't be afraid," Jace whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you." The second girl opened her eyes too. She looked around, then at her sister, then at Jace. "You bought us?" she asked softly. Jace nodded. "I couldn't leave you." They stared at him, silent. Then, the first girl whispered, "They will come for us, and when they do, they'll come for you too." Jace froze. "Who?" he asked, but the girls said nothing more. They stood up, holding each other for balance. Their legs were weak. They had been sitting for too long. Jace took off his jacket and wrapped it around one of them. "Let's get out of here," he said. They walked through the back door of the bar into the cold, dark alley. As they stepped into the night, Jace noticed something strange. The girls left no footprints in the dirt, not a single mark. He glanced back at the bar. The door had already closed behind them. He looked at the girls again. Who were they? Why were they so calm? Why did their skin glow faintly in the dark? The first girl suddenly looked up at the sky. "We don't have much time." "Time for what?" Jace asked. Before she could answer, a distant sound echoed through the alley, a soft hum, like a ship landing. The second girl grabbed his arm. "They've found us." Jace's heart began to race. He didn't know what was happening. He didn't know what these girls were. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a trade in a bar. This was the beginning of something far bigger and far more dangerous than he ever imagined. And now he was part of it. The old workshop behind Jace's scrapyard had never held anything precious. It smelled of grease and rust. Broken engines lay in piles. The metal walls were patched with different kinds of scrap, parts from 100 different ships. It was the kind of place no one cared about. But tonight, something rare, something dangerous, was hiding inside. Jace sat across from the two alien girls. He had given them water and wrapped them in spare blankets. They still hadn't said much. The younger one, with the sharper eyes, was watching everything. The older one just stared at the floor. "I'm Jace," he said carefully. "And you are?" The younger girl tilted her head. "We don't have names," Jace frowned. "Everyone has a name." "Not when you're made in a lab," she answered without blinking. He felt a chill run through his spine. "You were made?" The older girl finally spoke. "We were created for a purpose, not born, not wanted." Jace leaned forward, lowering his voice. "You said someone's coming. Who are they?" The younger girl looked at her sister before answering. "They call themselves collectors. They build and sell life, like us. When we escaped, they sent hunters. We've been running ever since." Jace stood up and paced the floor. "Why would they want you back so badly?" Neither girl spoke at first. Then the younger one said, "Because we're rare. We were supposed to be perfect. But we started to change. We began feeling things, thinking for ourselves. That made us dangerous. Dangerous." Jace looked at the tools on his workbench. Tools for fixing dead things, not living ones. He was no fighter, just a junker. But somehow these girls had ended up in his life. And now he was in the middle of something far beyond his world. Suddenly the lights flickered. The girls tensed. Jace walked over to the control panel. Nothing seemed broken, but then one of the dead engines in the corner sparked and began to hum. "What the?" The younger girl stood and walked over to it. She placed her hand on the metal casing. The engine began to float, just a little. Then it stopped. She turned to Jace. "It reacts to us. Machines listen. That's why they were making us. Are you some kind of weapon?" She didn't answer, but Jace could see it in her eyes. Before he could say more, a noise buzzed through his small comm screen. A galactic alert. He tapped it open and froze. A hologram lit the room showing a picture of the two girls. "Wanted. 2 escaped biosynth prototypes. Extreme danger. Do not approach. Reward. 900,000 credits. Dead or alive." Jace turned toward the girls. They were staring at the message. "Dead or alive?" he asked. "They'd prefer dead," the older one said. "They don't want anyone knowing what we've become." 100,000 credits, he whispered. That kind of money could buy a ship, a new identity, maybe a whole new life. But the thought made his stomach twist. "You think I'm going to sell you?" he asked. Neither of them answered, but the younger girl's silver eyes locked with his. "Don't think," she said slowly. "I feel, and I don't feel afraid of you." Jace turned off the hologram and grabbed a small blaster from under the workbench. "Good," he said, checking the charge, "because they'll probably come tonight." Outside, the wind picked up. Dust blew across the cracked windows. The air felt heavier. Jace locked the doors and moved a crate to block one of the back exits. He looked at the girls again, still sitting silently, glowing faintly in the dark. No, these weren't just some lost girls from a backwater system. They were living secrets. And someone powerful wanted them erased. He sighed and whispered to himself, "What have I gotten into?" Then he heard it. A soft thump on the roof. The girls looked up at the same time. "They've found us," the older one whispered. The lights went out. The silence was sharp, like a knife pressed against Jace's neck. Outside, the desert wind had gone still. No movement, no noise. But inside the dark workshop, 3 shadows stood alert. Jace and the 2 strange girls who now glowed faintly in the dark, like stars trapped in human skin. Then the roof creaked. Another thump. Jace raised his blaster. His hands were shaking. "Stay behind me," he whispered, even though he knew it was useless. If someone had found them already, Hiding would not save them. The younger girl tilted her head, listening. 4. No. 5. She said softly. How do you know? Jace whispered. She didn't answer. She just stared at the ceiling. The metal above cracked, then crashed in. A figure dropped through the roof like a black shadow, armor thick, helmet glowing red. Behind him, more figures smashed through the sides of the workshop. Windows exploded. Dust and sparks flew into the air. Targets located, one of them said in a cold voice. Prepare for capture. Jace fired first. His blaster shot hit one in the chest, but the armor didn't even dent. The bounty hunter turned and knocked him back with one strike. Jace slammed into the wall and dropped his weapon. The girls didn't scream. Instead, the older one stepped forward, calm, almost quiet. She placed her hand on a broken fusion core lying near the wall. It lit up, blue, bright, and loud. The room pulsed with energy. One of the bounty hunters raised a shock rifle. Stun them. He fired. The shot never landed. The younger girl raised her arm and the energy bolt stopped mid-air, floating, humming, trembling in place. The bounty hunters hesitated. What? The bolt twisted in space, then slammed back into the shooter's helmet. He flew backward, crashing into the wall like a broken toy. The room shook. The older girl lifted the fusion core and whispered something in a language Jace didn't understand. Then the power grid exploded. The entire shop went dark, then lit. Up in fire, sparks rained down. Machines came to life. Cables whipped across the floor like snakes. Heavy metal tools flew through the air, slamming into armored attackers with crushing force. The bounty hunters panicked. Abort! Fall back! 2 of them ran. Another tried to grab the older girl, but she touched his chest plate and his armor began to melt like hot wax. Within seconds, all 5 attackers were gone, either unconscious, crawling, or screaming for retreat, and the shop fell silent again. Jace coughed through the smoke. What did you do? The younger girl turned to him, her glowing eyes calm. We protected you. He looked at the mess. His shop, his only home, was destroyed. The walls were scorched, the roof half missing. Tools he had spent years collecting were now melted junk. But the girls were standing tall, untouched by fire or fear. You said you were created in a lab, Jace said slowly. But this is not science. This is power, the older girl finished. Power the collectors fear. That's why they want us dead. Jace picked up his broken blaster. And now they'll send more, stronger, smarter. The younger girl nodded. We shouldn't stay. Then where do we go? He asked. She stepped forward. You're coming with us. Jace blinked. Why me? The girls looked at each other. The older one finally spoke. Because you made a choice. You could have sold us. You didn't. That means something. Jace looked around at what was left of his life. He had no ship. No weapons strong enough. No reason to trust them. Except that they hadn't killed him when they could have. And deep down, a strange part of him didn't want to leave them. All right, he said with a breath. We run. The girls moved quickly, gathering the little they could, wires, small tools, anything useful. Jace pulled out a hidden floor panel and opened a trapdoor. Beneath it, a hover cart, half broken, half functional. It would have to do. As they climbed aboard, the younger girl sat close beside Jace. She placed her hand on the control pad. The lights turned on. I can make it fly, she said softly. Jace stared at her. Remind me again, he said. What are you two? The older girl sat behind him and whispered in his ear. The last mistake they'll ever make. The hover cart lifted into the night sky, leaving behind the broken workshop and heading straight into the unknown. The hover cart glided silently through the night skies of Alzor 9. Stars blinked above like quiet watchers. Below, the city lights faded into rust and dust. Jace sat behind the control panel pretending he had control, but the younger alien girl was the one actually flying. She didn't even touch the controls. Her hand simply hovered above them, and the machine obeyed. Jace couldn't stop staring. "All right," he finally said, breaking the silence. "I need answers. Real ones." The younger girl looked at her sister. The older one nodded. They both sat across from Jace in the narrow cargo seat, their silver hair flowing gently with the wind. "You've seen our power," said the older one. "But that's not the full story." "Then tell me," Jace said, "before I risk my life anymore for you two." The younger girl touched her wrist. A small light appeared from under the skin. A pattern. Glowing symbols that twisted like code. "This is who we are," she said. "It's not just blood inside us. It's data." Jace leaned closer. "What kind of data?" "The kind that can rewrite systems, command fleets, unlock vaults, control machines." She paused. "Or shut down entire worlds." He froze. "You're telling me? Your weapons?" "No," said the older girl, voice steady. "We were meant to be weapons, but we became something else, something the collectors didn't expect." "Alive," the younger girl added. "Feeling. Thinking. Choosing." Jace sat back, breathing hard. "And all of that is in your DNA." The older girl nodded. "The code is hidden, buried inside us. We don't even know the full extent. But others do. That's why they hunt us." Jace rubbed his face. "No wonder the bounty's so high." "They don't just want us dead," said the younger one. "They want the code erased. If someone scans us, the truth gets out." He looked at her glowing wrist again. The light faded. "And what if you're captured?" She said nothing. Her silence was the answer. Suddenly the hover cart shook. An alert blinked on the screen. "Tracker pinged," the younger girl said. "We were tagged. They know where we are." "How far?" Jace asked. The older girl answered. "Minutes, maybe less." Jace looked down at the scorched land below. They were flying over a dry wasteland now. No cities, no lights, only sand and broken rock. Perfect place to disappear or die. "There's an old mining station," he said, pointing. "I used to hide scrap there." The girls nodded. The hover cart dropped fast, engines whining. Dust rose as they landed behind a collapsed wall. Jace jumped out, blaster in hand. They entered the station, dark, quiet, and half-buried under rock. Inside, the walls were lined with ancient drilling bots and rusted conveyor belts. It smelled like old fuel and ash. "This way," Jace said, pulling open a storage hatch in the floor. They dropped inside, low ceiling, one exit, but for now it was safe. "I need time," said the younger girl. She sat cross-legged on the ground and closed her eyes. Her skin began to glow. "What are you doing?" Jace asked. "Searching the code," the older one said. "There, may be something in her. A way to protect us." "Like a weapon?" Jace asked. "No," she said. "Like a command. Something they never finished." Minutes passed. Jace paced. Suddenly, the younger girl gasped and opened her eyes wide. "I found it," she whispered. "A message." Jace knelt beside her. "What kind of message?" She looked right at him. "A name, a voice, and coordinates." "Coordinates?" he asked. "To where?" She shivered. "To the one who made us." Before they could say more, a loud boom echoed above them. The ground shook. Jace grabbed his blaster. "They're here." The older girl stood. "We can't stay." "But they'll track us anywhere," Jace said. The younger girl suddenly looked up at him. "No, I can block the signal, but I need help." Jace didn't hesitate. "Tell me what to do." As he placed his hand over hers, something pulsed between them, an energy he couldn't explain. The tracker signal blinked off. The alert died. "It worked," she breathed. "But now you're marked too." Jace smiled weakly. "Figures." Outside, more explosions. Dust rained from the ceiling. But they had a new clue now. A message. A maker. And maybe A way to end the chase for good. Moonlight spilled across the broken hills like silver water. The hover cart moved quietly, low to the ground, its engine humming like a whisper. Jace had taken a back route through the Badlands, a place where no patrol ships dared to follow. Too many stories of things vanishing in the night. Beside him sat the two alien girls, now dressed in patched jackets he had found in the old mining station. They looked like passengers, but he knew better now. They were more than passengers. They were the reason every hunter in the quadrant was wide awake. But Jace had a plan. "We're going to meet someone I trust," he said. "Name's Relo. Ex-mercenary, ex-smuggler, ex-everything. If anyone can get you off-world, it's him." The older girl nodded, but her voice was careful. "Are you sure he won't turn us in?" Jace gave a dry smile. "Relo saved my life once, I trust him." The younger girl, quiet for most of the ride, looked up. "Hope is dangerous." "I know," Jace said. They reached Rilo's outpost, near the canyon cliffs by midnight. It was hidden in a collapsed communication tower. Lights were dim. Two rusted sentry bots scanned the cart, but didn't shoot. That was a good sign. Relo stepped out of the shadows. He was tall, wide-shouldered, half-cybernetic. His left eye glowed red and his arms looked like they could bend steel. "Jace," he said, grinning. "Didn't think I'd see your ugly face again." "Yeah," Jace replied. "I brought company." Relo's smile faded when he saw the girls. "Trouble?" "The kind worth 900,000 credits, Jace said quietly. Relo whistled. "You're dragging death behind you, buddy." "I need your help. Just a ship. Just this once." Relo rubbed his metal chin. "This once? You said that last time." Jace took a step forward. "Please." After a long pause, Relo nodded. "All right, I've got an old stealth shuttle parked in the ravine. It's slow but invisible to scanners." The older girl narrowed her eyes. "You're helping us?" "Helping him," Relo replied. "You two are just cargo." She didn't like that word, but she said nothing. They followed Relo through narrow rock paths and into a small canyon below. The shuttle was there, dark, dusty, but real. Jace felt relief for the first time in days. Maybe they'd finally be safe. Then the comm link in Relo's arm blinked red. "Unregistered alert?" Jace asked, frowning. Rilo looked at it. "Just background noise." But the younger girl was already pulling Jace back. "No," she whispered. "He lied." "What?" She grabbed his hand and pointed at Relo's comm link. "That signal is a beacon, he already called them." Jace turned to Relo. "Tell me she's wrong." Relo didn't meet his eyes. "I'm sorry, Jace," he said. 900,000, I could vanish forever with that." "You said you owed me." "I paid you back. I didn't shoot you in the back." Jace raised his blaster, but too late. Ship dropped into the canyon above them, sleek, black, armed. Its spotlight hit them like a blade. "Run!" the older girl shouted. Blaster fire rained down. Jace pulled the girls behind a boulder. One of the rocks exploded, throwing sand into the air. Relo shouted into his comm, "They're here! Come get them!" "You traitor!" Jace shouted, but Relo was already backing away, moving toward the cliff edge where a small escape lift waited. Jace aimed his blaster and fired. Relo dropped. His leg hit. He screamed in pain. "You shot me!" "I should have done worse," Jace growled. The younger girl grabbed his arm. "We have to move." Together they ran through the ravine. The bounty ship followed, firing, hunting. Then the older girl stopped. She stood still, arms raised. "Go," she said to Jace. "I'll hold them off." "You'll die." She turned her head. "We're already dead, remember?" The younger girl looked at her sister, then at Jace. "We don't leave each other." Jace grabbed both of them. "Then none of us leave. Not without all of us." They sprinted toward the crashed mining rail on the edge of the canyon. Jace hit the switch. The old engine came alive, barely. "Get in." As they jumped inside, the bounty ship descended lower. Lights flashed. The voice came from above. Surrender the assets or be terminated. Jace flipped the lever. The mining rail shot forward, screeching on rusted tracks through the dark canyon walls. They didn't look back. And somewhere behind them, Rilo screamed again, not from pain, but because the girls had done something. His escape lift had melted under his feet. The older girl didn't even turn her head. "You were right," Jace whispered. "Hope is dangerous." They thought he would run. They thought he would give up. But Jace wasn't that kind of man. Not anymore. The mining rail shot through the canyon like a scream in the night, sparks flying as rusted metal tore against old tracks. Jace gripped the front lever tightly, sweat dripping down his face. Behind him, the alien girls clung to each other, eyes glowing with silent fire. Above, the bounty ship roared like a beast. They had chased them across deserts, alleys, and now a dead canyon. But still couldn't catch them. Now they were angry, desperate, and worse. They were bringing more. A second ship appeared in the sky, sleeker and darker than the first. Its wings opened wide like a bird ready to kill. The girls sensed it before Jace saw it. "They're sending black operatives," the older girl said. "Who?" Jace shouted over the sound. "They don't talk, they don't sleep, and they never fail." As if answering, the second ship launched a round of shock bombs ahead of the rail. The tracks exploded. The mining car jumped off the path and crashed, sideways into the canyon wall. Everything went black. When Jace opened his eyes, pain screamed through his body. His arm was cut, his leg burned, but he was alive. He tried to speak, but dust filled his throat. His vision blurred, but slowly the shapes came into focus. The girls were still there. The younger one knelt beside him, her face pale and shaking. "You're hurt," he coughed. "You think?" The older one stood guard near the entrance of the broken rail tunnel. She held a sharp piece of metal like a blade. "We need to move," she said. "Now." But before they could lift Jace, shadows appeared at the tunnel's mouth. Black armor, no faces, no sound. The operatives had arrived. 5 of them. The older girl attacked first, fast, sharp, silent. Her blade sparked against their armor, but they didn't flinch. The younger one tried to use her energy, but the air was strange, thick, heavy. "They're jamming our abilities," she cried. One of the operatives raised a baton and hit Jace, hard in the chest. He collapsed. Everything went dark again. When Jace woke up this time, he was chained. Metal cuffs held his wrists to a cold table. The room was gray, empty, and silent. A soft light buzzed above. He tried to move, but the pain in his ribs screamed louder. Across the room stood a single figure. A woman. Not human. Her skin was pale violet. Her eyes were black like space. "You're stronger than expected," she said. "Where are they?" Jace growled. She smiled without joy. "Safe, for now." He pulled against the chains. "Why me?" he asked. "Why not just take them?" "Because they trust you," she replied. "And we need that trust broken. You are the chain that holds them back." Jace laughed just once. "You think hurting me will scare them? They melted armor. They took down bounty hunters. They won't stop." "Everyone stops," she said calmly. "Even humans." She stepped aside. A screen lit up. It showed the girls, trapped in energy cages, eyes full of fear, but not crying. The woman leaned in. "Tell us what they've unlocked. Where the code is hidden. Do that, and you walk free." Jay stared at the screen, at the girls. They didn't beg. They didn't speak. They just waited for him. He looked up and smiled. "Do your worst," he said. "I'm not breaking." An hour. Tarzan, then 2. They used shock pulses, noise storms, pain fields, but Jace didn't scream. Not once. He thought of their faces, their small hands fixing his broken tools, the way they glowed when they laughed, even if just for a second. They weren't cargo. They weren't tools. They were people. Finally, The door burst open. The younger girl stood there, hair flying, chains melted from her wrists. She held the energy of a sun in her palms. Jace looked up, barely breathing. "You came back," he whispered. "We never left," she said. Behind her, the older girl moved like lightning. Guards dropped, lights shattered. The room cracked from the inside. In the center of it all, Jace sat chained, but he was the strongest one. There. Because even broken, he hadn't let go. The younger girl snapped his cuffs with a touch. The metal turned soft and fell away. He stood. She caught him. "You're the only one," she said softly, "who never tried to use us." Jace looked into her glowing eyes. "And you're the only ones," he whispered back, "who made me care." They walked out of the burning prison, together, not as weapons, not as captives, but as something new. A force the galaxy hadn't seen yet, and couldn't stop. Smoke curled into the dawn sky. The prison facility behind them was nothing but glowing rubble. Metal still hissed, alarms no longer screamed. The ground was cracked open, and silence finally returned to the edge of the wastelands. Jace stood on a small cliff, breathing in the cold morning air. His shirt was torn, his ribs still ached, but he was alive, and they were free. The two alien girls stood beside him, no longer looking like lost runaways. No chains, no cages, no fear in their glowing eyes. They were something different now, something stronger. The younger girl placed a hand on Jace's arm. "You should rest." He shook his head. "Later. We're not safe yet." The older girl turned to him. "They'll send more, you know that." "I know," he said, "but they won't find us easily this time." Behind them, the broken remains of the bounty ship smoldered. The girls had taken the last tracker core and melted it into slag. No signals, no beacons, no way to trace them now. Jace had thought this would be the end, a final escape. But now, it felt like a beginning. They walked together toward an old ridge trail that led to the far desert. Far beyond the borderlands was a quiet moon Jace had once heard about, Elira, a place with no satellites, no patrols, no cities. Just quiet. Maybe they could build something there, not just hide. Live. As they walked, the younger girl asked, "Why didn't you give us up? You could have taken the reward and left." Jace paused. Then he said, "Because you weren't mine to sell." The older girl looked at him. "Then what are we to you?" He stopped, turned, and said the words slowly. "You're not property, not tools, not dangerous things to be used. You're people, your family." The wind blew across the canyon gently. Neither girl said a word, but their silence was heavy, full. Then the older one said, "We want a name." He smiled. "You should choose your own." The younger one thought for a moment. "I want something soft, something human." Jace nodded. "What about Mira?" "It means light." She smiled. "Then I am Mira." The older girl stepped closer. "And I will be Lyra." Mira and Lyra. Jace whispered their names like they were something sacred. For a long time they walked in peace. The sun rose higher. Birds, real ones, glided through the air. It almost felt like nothing had ever been wrong. But of course, peace never lasts long in a galaxy full of hunters. Just past midday, the skies above shimmered, barely visible. A single probe. Silent. Watching, Jace spotted it first. He raised his rifle, but Lyra touched his arm. "No," she said. "Let it go." "What?" She looked at him with calm eyes. "It won't matter anymore." Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a thin chip. It looked plain, like a broken data card. "What's that?" he asked. "The command code," Lyra said. "The one they built into us, the one they wanted to hide." Jace stepped back. "You've had it the whole time?" Mira nodded. "But now, we've changed." What does it do?" Lyra looked up at the sky. It sends a signal, she whispered. Not to the collectors. To every lab, every cage, every locked room where someone like us is still waiting. She pressed the chip to her neck. It melted into her skin. A pulse spread across the air, silent, invisible, but deep. Machines would hear it, systems would recognize it, and others would rise. You've just made enemies across the galaxy, Jace said. Lyra smiled faintly. Then we'll need someone to protect us. Mira looked at Jace. No, she said. We'll protect him now. That night, they reached a quiet valley near the edge of the world. Jace built a fire. Lyra fixed the old scanner unit for defense. Mira sat with her back against a tree, humming a song she said she learned in the lab, though she had no idea who wrote it. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. Jace watched them. Two beings that were once meant to be nothing more than tools, now alive, free, fierce, and by his side. Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. Will you leave one day? She asked. Jace shook his head. No, I'll stay, as long as you need me. Lyra sat close too. Even if it's forever? She asked. He looked at both of them. Forever's not long, he said softly. When you finally have something worth fighting for. The stars above blinked like soft fireflies, and for the first time since this strange journey began, they all slept peacefully, together, bound by more than fate, bound by choice, by trust, by family.